And that is how you find your path to heaven, is by taking care of your child who is requiring you to walk by faith and not by sight. And that is how you trust God, and that is how that's how you make your way to heaven. It's kind of it's like God's allowing you to ride with training wheels, by making sure that you know that you, like, requiring you to walk by faith, where other people who may not be in the same kind of situation may find themselves getting to choose of, oh, am I going to believe that this was God working, or am I going to believe this was a coincidence? And I don't find I have the option to believe that this or that was a coincidence. Like, I know this should not have happened, but there's no other explanation but God to have had his hand in this. And it's just amazing that way.
There are times when life just brings you down, 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 down to the ground. And it's hard when you can't see the light, 'cause things don't look so bright. So now it's time to reframe and retrain your brain. It's time to look for the good. You know that you should. Why don't you join me? 'Cause I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. Oh, oh, oh. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine.
I'm Karaleigh Garrison, a singer-songwriter, motivational speaker, and your host of the Seeking Sunshine podcast, where we find the positive in the trials of life. I created this podcast because I believe really deeply that we can learn from one another's stories and experiences. I'm willing to bet that just about all of us have been through some really, really tough things. And not only is it therapeutic for us to be able to talk about these darkest times in our lives, but the lessons that we've learned and the resilience we've shown can help everyone around us weather their own storms from higher ground. On the Seeking Sunshine podcast, we don't shy away from difficulty and trauma, but we always look for the sunshine in it. It's my personal belief that there are blessings in every trial and trials in every blessing. I use this Seeking Sunshine mantra every single day to change my perspective when things start going wrong and getting frustrating, which they often do because I have 3 kids with special needs. And I can tell you that it has transformed my life. And I hope, and that's the whole point of this podcast, that it can transform your life too. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Seeking Sunshine podcast, and happy 4th of July. I hope that you have some amazing plans for today and that you get to celebrate and spend time with your family and do some really great things and spend some time in the sunshine and enjoying life. Today is such a beautiful day to celebrate the beauty of the earth and to celebrate the freedom that we're experiencing. If you are in the US, it's an especially amazing day to just appreciate everything that we have been blessed with. I just wanted to say that and celebrate today. It's such a great holiday. I hope that you have amazing plans. And today's episode is so great that I don't want to spend a bunch of time talking. This is one of my most favorite episodes that I have ever had for this podcast. Hands down, I just am obsessed. This episode is going to have you laughing and crying, and just your heart is going to burst with so much joy. It's just, this is such an incredible episode. So today's guest is the incredible Colleen Keefe Faul. She is the author of her book, which is called God's Precious Gift, A Special Needs Child. When her daughter was 6 months old, she was diagnosed with some serious medical conditions, and it has changed her entire life. And this story is both heartbreaking to a certain degree, but just so powerful. and so filled with faith and hope and so much beauty and so much love. And her story is so incredibly inspiring. And this conversation is going to bring you to your knees. I'm over the moon that I get to share this with you. It is so incredibly powerful. And I'm so grateful that I got to have this conversation with Colleen and that I get to share it with you today. I'm so grateful for it. I really, really am. So without any further ado, here is Colleen Keefe Faul. Hi, Colleen. Welcome to the Seeking Sunshine podcast.
Hi, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to talk to you today. I feel like we have a lot in common, and so I'm really excited to dive in. I don't know if you know anything at all about me. I actually have three special needs kids. They are all three on the autism spectrum. Two are high functioning, and one is severely autistic and kind of semi-verbal, and he has type 1 diabetes. So your story really speaks to me so much, because we've obviously seen a lot of miracles, and just really incredible experiences. And so I'm really excited to dive in and hear about your book and hear about your experience.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited. I knew you were a mom of at least one child with special needs. I didn't know you had three. So that is just, oh gosh, you must be showered in grace all the time.
It's a work in progress, aren't we all? That's the whole, idea of seeking sunshine is like, how do we find something to be grateful for in everything? Because sometimes it just feels like there's a lot crashing down and coming up at once, and it's so filling to find something to be grateful for, even when things are really hard.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it's especially it's really important to remember to find things to be grateful for in the midst of things like when your child is diagnosed with some kind of a medical condition or special need. Um, and I came to share my story about that, so I'm just gonna. I know you kind of asked, and I kind of got distracted, but I'll just jump right into that.
Yeah, let's
That's
go
okay.
for it.
Yeah, I am a mother of two. I have a little boy who is 3 years old now, and I also have a little girl who is 19 months old. And she is the one who has a couple of medical conditions that are pretty significant. But we found out about them a little over a year ago, in November of 2021, when she was 5 months old. So up until then, we thought that our little girl, her name is Grace, we thought that we had a pretty typical baby girl. She was beautiful. She was she was a fussy baby, but there's a lot of fussy babies out there. We didn't think too much of that. But she was just, we loved her to death. Still do. I don't want to say that in past tense, but we were not suspicious that anything was wrong, I guess is the point that I'm making. She did have a little trouble reaching certain milestones, but she clearly had some issues with her eyes. And I wasn't shocked by that. I wasn't really super concerned by that. I have really bad vision. I have to wear contacts. My mom has she has like a lazy eye. Most of the women in my family have eye problems. So, in one shape or form. So I figured when she gets older, she'd probably have to wear glasses. And she's slow to meet milestones, like reaching for things, probably because she just can't see them, like that type of a thing.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, it's almost nice. Is that weird to say that, like, you have this family history of vision problems, and as a result, you're like, oh, I expect this. It's not that big of a deal. My two boys are both in glasses, and it was very unexpected. And so when parents, which I know it's like such a minor thing, like the whole glasses thing, like comparatively, it feels like it's silly for a parent to feel upset, right? And that's how,
Hmm.
when a child initially gets glasses and it's something unexpected, that's a big feeling that comes up for so many people, of just like this kind of grief and just like dealing with that. And I know it's like, and we feel guilty for feeling grief over something that's so minor, right? But it's just an
No,
interesting.
like anything that could potentially affect your child, their health, their development, anything at all. It could be as small as glasses or as big as, life-threatening condition. It could be it's all a matter of perspective, and God knows what you can handle. So he will give you something that is going to affect you enough to be able to turn to him, and like so but what I have found, I've spoken to a lot of family, or a lot of people with special, a lot of parents with children with special needs, and it really, I find that the feelings that are felt by the parents are pretty universal, regardless of the severity of the condition of the child. Like it's like that's your baby,
Oh
and
yeah.
anything that could be messing with your baby, that gets your heart. Like that's kind of
Oh
how we
yeah,
all
for
feel.
sure. I mean, we have this kind of idea, you conceive and or whatever method you have your baby, and you're like, oh, I can just picture this beautiful future, and my child's gonna have no problems and no pains, and it's just gonna be perfect. And it's so funny because obviously that's not actual reality,
I
and
know.
yet somehow we expect it.
No, and it's so like and we all fool ourselves into thinking, like, do you want a boy or a girl? Oh, as long as it's healthy, like it's like we don't. I know I had fooled myself into thinking that, oh, I have no preconceived expectations or notions. I'm not attached to any kind of a vision for my child's future. They can be whatever they want to be, whatever's going to happen. And soon came to find out that I am actually very attached to a lot of these dreams that I have for my kids, and I didn't even realize that I had them or that I was attached to
Oh
them.
yeah. And that mommy grief, we feel guilty
It's
for
real.
having it, and yet
Hmm.
it's just so real, and it's worth acknowledging. Like we
It
write it
really
off and
is.
we feel guilty for having the grief, and then it's just like adding on unnecessary things. So it's just like
It's a
experience it.
dark spiral.
It is. It's so is, and it's just like you've gotta experience it and recognize that
Hmm.
it's valid.
It really is. I mean, because it's you're not it's a grief. I think grief is the most appropriate word for it, because you're not necessarily grieving a death, but you are grieving a life that you didn't get to live, or that you thought you would get to live. You're grieving the life not lived versus a death. So my hand just went in front of the screen. It is grief, and it's real, and you have to go through the process. All five of those stages, like you got to go through it. Otherwise, it just stays with you, and it just prolongs the pain that comes with it. At least
Yeah.
that was my experience with it.
Oh no, absolutely. You're spot on. But yeah, but just to validate that, like, your feelings are valid. Like you
Yeah.
it's okay to feel those feelings. It's perfectly normal.
Hmm. Feel all the things, all the things that are going to come, because there's a lot, and it's a very, very big journey that you're just emotionally and just spiritually. You gotta. There's a lot to handle there, and I haven't even started talking about what really was going on with my
I'm
little
sorry, I know we
girl
could
yet.
just like go on and on and on about this. But yes, let's dive into your story.
Pushing the cart before the horse here a little bit, but yeah, no, it's no. So Gracie, when she was 5 months old, I took her to her pediatrician because she was having still more issues with her eyes, and she wasn't looking at things. But then she also started. She was at first just really slow to reach milestones, and just on that, I had taken her to her pediatrician, and I said, you know what, just to rule out the possibility of it being something other than her eyes, what can we like explore to see if this is something neurological? Can we just get her tested just to rule anything out? And the pediatrician was like, fine, that's totally cool. We can she see we can get her in to see a neurologist here, but I know that the neurology department here is really full, and it'll take you a really long time to get seen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to refer you to this other hospital that's about an hour away, and you'll probably get seen much faster there. I said, okay, that sounds fine to me.
So can I just
Uh,
point out how
sure.
incredible it is that your doctor was like, yeah, let's go all in on this and let's figure this out, because my experience and so many others is the doctor just totally writing it off. It's like, no,
Well, she wasn't concerned. She didn't think that there was anything to find. So she
and
hadn't really
yet,
noticed anything, but
and
she was humoring me.
yes,
And
but
I
that
appreciate
so
that.
often doesn't happen. Like when
Yes.
I have my severely autistic son is Joshua, and he's now 11. And when he was 18 months old, and his
Mhm.
sister was just getting her autism diagnosis, and I was like, if she has it, he definitely does. And the pediatrician was like, nah, he's a boy. He doesn't make eye contact. He doesn't talk.
What?
It's just because he's a boy. And we got totally written off, and he wouldn't take us seriously at all.
Uh,
He wouldn't do anything. He was just like, no, it's fine. He'll grow into it. It's fine. And then he didn't talk for 7 years. And so I
oh
think
my gosh.
there's a miraculous aspect here of your doctor humoring you, when I've
Yes,
seen how often that doesn't happen.
that's very true. That is so true. And you know what? I hadn't really even thought about that particular point until just now when you said it, that just that part of it is just amazing. And I'm gonna thank her pediatrician next time I see her just for
Well,
that
and
bit.
I guess I've had that experience just too many times, because so Joshua, when he was 7 years old, got really
Mhm.
sick, and I was so sick that my super duper hyperactive kid who needed meds to be at a level that was not bouncing off the walls, he got so sick that I had to carry him into his pediatrician's office,
Oh
and they were like,
man.
"Oh," they didn't even look at him. They did
Oh,
nothing. She was like, "Oh, we could do blood work, but that's really hard on a kid with autism." So she completely wrote us off, said, "Come back later if it doesn't get better." He almost died. He had type 1 diabetes and was in diabetic ketoacidosis. And he
oh,
almost died. And then once again, we were completely written off. And so, like, just to emphasize, like, mothers know.
they knew. Oh gosh, I'm
Mothers
getting to that.
know. Yeah,
Oh
mothers
my
know,
gosh.
and it's so important. So sorry, keep going.
Oh gosh, no, you're good. No, that is so true. Perfect segue. So so they wrote us a referral to get Gracie referred to this other hospital. And this hospital, they were a hot mess. I kept on calling and calling like every couple of days for a month, trying to get even just an appointment made for my daughter to be seen by a neurologist at this hospital. And every time they just gave me the runaround. I'd spend like an hour on the phone, like getting transferred from one person to another. And I don't know, one thing was filed incorrectly or the referral was written wrong or something like this, that, or the other. And they just gave me the runaround. And a month went by and we still hadn't even made an appointment. And so it is now getting to the end of November 2021. Gracie is about to turn 6 months old, and she starts doing, and in that month of trying to get her an appointment, she hasn't just stopped reaching new milestones, she started regressing. She started, she stopped laughing. Sorry. She stopped laughing. She stopped rolling over. She stopped smiling. And that really concerned me. And then so I started getting more frantic about she needs to be seen by a neurologist. And then one day she started throwing her arms up in the air. And if you looked at her, you could tell she'd throw her arms up in the air and she herself was surprised by the movement. And then right afterwards she would react of like she didn't like it, and she started crying afterwards. But then 10 seconds later her arms would shoot up again, and this would just keep on happening over and over and over again. And I looked at her and it was kind of subtle, but at the same time, I knew, I who watch my baby all day long, I knew that this was not normal. And I brought it to the attention of my husband. He didn't really think much of it. He thought, oh, she's just being silly, she's just doing something weird. I don't know. He kind of brushed me off at first. And then I took her next door. My parents happened to live next door to us. And I showed it to my mom. who also has that mom instinct, and she saw her doing these motions with her arms, and she was like, no, that's not right, she shouldn't be doing that, that's very concerning to me. And after hearing my mom kind of confirm these suspicions of, okay, this isn't, something's wrong here, I grabbed my baby and I grabbed my husband and I said, we're going to the ER right now. And so we went to the ER and we were there for like 5 hours. And this was at 6 o'clock at night. We left Sammy, my son, with my parents, and we went to the ER. And we were there until like 11 o'clock. And we showed them a video of what she was doing, the motions she was doing, and of her cry. Her cry was a very different cry. She got to the point where it was not her normal cry, and she was in pain, and she was freaked out about something. And they did a chest X-ray, and they did blood work. They did a blood draw and did like a little blood panel of some kind. And then they told us that she was being fussy, and they sent us home.
Why on earth would they do a chest X-ray and blood work for something that's obviously neurological?
I don't know. No one mentioned it being neurological. None of the doctors, she saw like 4 different doctors. None of them suggested that this could be neurological or even explored that avenue at all in the 5 hours that we were there. And they sent us home. And when they told us at the end of the night, she's just being fussy, we can't find anything wrong with her, she's probably fine, go home. At that point, my baby was asleep in my arms. It's 11 o'clock at night. I was tired and freaked out. And I wanted to believe that she was okay. Like at that point, she was asleep and I wanted her to be okay. And they told me she was okay and I wanted to believe it. So we took her home that night. And she slept the whole night, thank goodness. But the next morning, she started doing the arm motions again. And I start texting a couple of friends of mine, and we start, I'm just chatting up, telling them, hey, we went to the ER last night. We had a crazy night. And one of my friends sends me a video of another baby doing these exact same arm motions. And the baby in the video had something called infantile spasms. And I had never heard of that, didn't know what that was. So I got on my phone, and Googled infantile spasms. And a quick Google search told me enough to know that infantile spasms was a rare form of epilepsy found in young children. It's dangerous and it needs to be treated aggressively and right away. And the only way to detect it is with an EEG. So I immediately got on the phone with her pediatrician and I said, okay, I think my daughter's having infantile spasms. She needs an EEG today. And the lady on the other end of the phone, she was like, okay, well, I see that on the file that you've already got a referral to see a neurologist. Why don't you just, why don't we wait and get you an appointment at this other hospital where you have a referral? And I said, no, I've been trying to get an appointment there for the last month. They keep giving me the runarounds. I don't want to go there. She needs an EEG today. And so they put me on hold. And I'm sitting there and I'm waiting. And then she comes back and she says, okay, Ms. Faul, if you want to be seen here at this hospital, we can put you on the roster for an appointment. But the earliest time we have to see you is in a month. And I said, darling, I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Now I need you to hear and understand me. My daughter needs an EEG today. And I'm not getting off this phone until you schedule her today. And she put me on hold again. And then she came back another couple of minutes. I think she'd actually gone and spoken to the actual pediatrician at that point. And they came back and they said, okay, Ms. Faul, we will schedule you for an emergency EEG tomorrow. That's the soonest we can get you in. And I said, okay, well, tomorrow, we will come tomorrow then. And so that gave me about 24 hours to look up infantile spasms and to look up everything that I possibly could. And literally everything I was learning was scary. And I just had about 24 hours to freak out, basically. And I just kept on praying and praying that I was wrong. We brought her into her appointment and we it was my husband and me and my son, who at the time was not quite 2 years old, and my daughter. So the four of us went. My son Sammy was not going to sit quietly in a room for an EEG, so my husband stayed in the waiting room with him, and I went in with Gracie with this technician, and we hooked her up to the EEG. And I don't know if you've ever had an EEG, but they have to put all these wires on her head, and Gracie was not happy about that at all. It was kind of an unpleasant process for her, poor thing. Um, but the blessing was that she cried so much for that she tired herself out and she went to sleep for the EEG. So my job was to hold her and make sure that she didn't wake up for the EEG.
And pull all the
So
things
they
out.
had, yeah. So they had me lay down on this hospital bed basically, and then they turned the machine on. And within 60 seconds of that machine turning on, the technician lady's looking at the screen, and then she starts getting on her phone and she starts texting somebody like crazy. I find out she's texting the neurologist. And I look at her, I was like, she has a very concerned look on her face. I ask her if everything's okay. And she looks at me and she's looking at her phone, and she kind of just hesitates for a second, and she puts her phone down and she says, I am not the neurologist. I am not supposed to be telling you this because I am not qualified to make a diagnosis. But I know that if that was my baby right there, I'd want to know your daughter has infantile spasms. And I am just like, I can't move. So I just start crying there on the bed, just trying not to move too much and trying to be quiet and just tears just fall on my cheeks. And I'm just trying to grapple with the reality of that what infantile spasms is basically it's when your child is having seizure after seizure after seizure, like seconds apart, up to hundreds at a time in clusters. And these seizures are very damaging to your baby's brain, and that's why it needs to be treated aggressively and immediately. And so she had been having seizures. That's what was causing her arms to go up, was seizures. And so the neurologist that this technician had been texting immediately ordered for us to get admitted to the hospital, into the emergency room. And we ended up staying there for 3 days. And he ordered like 1 million tests to be done for Gracie and on Gracie. And when they did an MRI, they came back to us and said, okay, we don't think she only has infantile spasms. We think she also has this rare genetic disorder called Tuberous sclerosis complex. And I had never heard of that either. I didn't know what that was. And so I got on my phone, I started Googling that, and turns out tuberous sclerosis complex is this rare genetic disorder where the gene in your DNA that is responsible for regulating cell growth is malfunctioning. And so you start growing these random growths of cells all over your body, and you end up having these benign, non-cancerous tumors everywhere. And they can show up almost anywhere at any time. And the tubers themselves are not cancerous, so they themselves are not dangerous, but depending on where they grow, where they show up, and how many there are, and how big they are, they cause real health problems.
Yeah, I bet they get in the way of brain function and every other kind of function.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And so my daughter Grace, there's a wide range of severity and mildness to this genetic disorder. Gracie, in our particular case, has at least 10 tubers in her brain, of various sizes and locations. And that is almost definitely what caused the infantile spasms to start. And
Interesting.
yeah. And so the good news was that because they found out from the MRI that it was tuberous sclerosis instead of just normal infantile spasms, they knew which medicine to give us. So, and it's a very different medicine, that, like, if they had tried to treat just the infantile spasms and put us on different medicine, it wouldn't have worked. So thank goodness that they found out that it was tuberous sclerosis and that we were able to get her on the right type of medicine quickly. And that was able to actually get her seizures under control. Thank goodness. But I wasn't thinking of the good stuff at the time. I wasn't, I mean, I was thankful. I was thankful that, we found out, but I wasn't,
Well, it's
thinking,
always hindsight.
yeah,
Like,
no,
you look,
hindsight is 2020. That's it.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
you look back and you're like, oh, okay, now I can see how that was a gift, and now I can see. But when you're in the moment, it's usually survival
Just like,
mode. It's
no, yeah,
utter shock.
in the moment, you're thinking, wait, my daughter has not just this one rare and dangerous condition. She's got two of them. Like she won the lottery twice. Like what the heck, God? Come on. Uh,
Right. That's, you know what? No,
oh,
that's exactly how I felt when my severely autistic nonverbal kid was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And I was like, this isn't fair. Like this is not fair. How does this he's already got something. He doesn't need another thing.
yeah, no, it was really, oh gosh, it was horror. It was terrifying and horrifying and very, very heavy. And I remember just, like you were saying earlier, all of these preconceived dreams that we have for our kids that I didn't even know meant so much to me. All of a sudden, they were in an instant gone because we had no idea what she was going to grow up and be capable of. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, everyone assumes your kid's going to grow up. They're going to walk. They're going to talk. They're going to decide what kind of what they're going to figure out what their talents are and get a career and just kind of the basics. And with Gracie, we didn't know if she'd ever learn to talk or to walk. We didn't know if she'd be able to do anything herself. We didn't know we literally had no idea what her future was going to be. And that was terrifying. And it was like, so I was suddenly grieving for her that there were so many things, even just basic things that I didn't know if she'd ever be able to have. And I was also grieving for me because for some reason, and again, this is where the mom guilt kind of kicks in. Like I was trying not to be selfish, but at the same time, my first thought was, I may never get grandkids. Because tuberous sclerosis I found out is autosomal dominant, which means if she has it, any child she has will have a 50-50% chance of inheriting it from her. And that child's case could be severely much more mild than hers, or it could be much worse, much, much worse. So any child for her to have would be a very big risk for her to choose to have children, which, and my first thought is, okay, with that big of a risk, she probably won't ever have kids, which means I won't ever get to have grandkids by her. And now I have had, and I live next door to my parents. My parents I've been able to witness my parents experiencing such joy with having their grandkids in their life. And I didn't even realize how much I was looking forward to having grandkids in my own life one day. And then to suddenly be faced with the prospect of, I may never get grandkids in my old age. And I know other people will think of other things first, but that was where my heart first went of, I may get no grandkids. And that really, really broke my heart. And
I
it was really just scary to me.
I just
And,
I just
sorry, go ahead.
oh, I feel that so deeply because I have the same worries about my kids. You
Mm-hmm.
know, will they, even if they did choose, would they ever be able to handle it? And it's
Mm-hmm.
just, and one of the things that has come up for me a lot of times is I'm never going to be an empty nester ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that it's like people constantly when they're like trying to comfort like a mom, they're like, oh, appreciate the years now because when they're 18 they're all gonna leave, and I'm like, no, they're not.
No,
No,
mine probably won't.
mine
Mine
will be with
probably
me
won't.
for the rest of my life.
Guys, I just wanted to pause here for 1 second to let you know about the awesome thing that I'm doing right now. I'm so excited to announce that I'm offering a custom song experience for a small number of people. This is your chance to take your story, your podcast, or your business even, and turn it into an incredible, timeless work that will bring back beautiful, loving emotions for decades to come. This is such a perfect gift for your spouse, for a newborn baby, or for a parent, and it's a really great way to embody your business or your podcast's mission. We're going to meet together several times and deep dive into the message and emotion you want to convey to make sure that you're getting something that you absolutely adore. A custom song is an incredible asset for advertising, for lifting team spirit, and for encapsulating family memories. If you want a custom song, please email customsongsbykaraleigh@gmail.com.
Well, no. Well, okay. So once I started getting to that point, what I was thinking was it didn't even bother me that I would never be an empty nester. That part didn't stick with me. The part that really messed with my heart was what's going to happen to her after I die. Who's going to take care of her, and will she be properly cared for? Like, that part terrified me.
Yeah, I've just decided I'm never gonna die. So
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna live forever, so I'm gonna not worry about that part. It's
Oh,
so heavy. It's so
I-
hard. And
and I had a unique insight into that because I became a stay-at-home wife and mom when I started having kids. But before that, I had spent most of my professional career in one aspect or another involved in the special needs community. I put myself through college working as a personal care attendant to a girl in a wheelchair who was near my own age. We were both going to college together, and I was helping to take care of her. And then after I graduated from college, I started working with a couple of different organizations that provided services for adults with developmental disabilities. And I would be a supervisor, and I worked in the office as a QIDP, which is a fancy name for a person who coordinates the services for adults with disabilities. And so I got to see the broad range of situations that adults with developmental disabilities find themselves in. And I just kept on thinking, I just don't want this for my child. I just don't want it for her. Like, that's where I honestly was at. I just don't want it for her. And God and I needed to have we had a good little wrestling match over that. And I just went through this very real grieving process. There was just so much grief there.
oh
It was
yeah,
just hard.
for me, it was like you said everything was gonna be okay, but this is not. This is not okay.
Yes.
I'm not okay with this. Does not fall under the category of everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah, no, and it was very I my heart hurt so much. And now I'm very fortunate in that I have, for my entire life, always had a very strong faith life. And so I had this foundation of trusting in God already in place when this happened. Um, and I'm very thankful for that, because if I didn't have a faith life to fall back on in this particular time, I really don't know where I would have gone to.
I entirely agree. I'm also very, very religious, and it can really save you and be a world of difference.
It really does. It really, really did. I mean, that's not to say that it was not uh, excruciating and challenging, and would never want to go through that experience again, type experience. But thank God that I had my faith there, and that God was there with me in that, and that I had, because of that, the insight to see all the little ways that God was consoling me every step of the way, all the little ways that God was just stepping in to let me know, you're not by yourself in this. I'm here. I'm with you. I'm suffering through this with you because she's my child too. And he was there, and it was very consoling. And when I look back on it now with hindsight, and I see 100 little miracles, 100 little ways that it could have gone so differently, right down to it could have been months, if not longer, before they realized that it was TSC, and we could have just been hurting our child more. Or I could have listened to the ER and just assumed that there was nothing wrong. Somehow my friend found the perfect video to show me exactly that there was something wrong. I mean, like, God was everywhere in it. But and I'm so thankful for that. And after a couple of months, I was still wrestling with this, was still grieving, was still, hurting so much. But then, and praying about it deeply, and praying for a miracle, praying that my daughter be healed, praying that she be fixed somehow, that this be taken from her, and that that God fix her. And that was my prayer. God, fix my baby, just fix her. And it was in that time of my prayer that I was inspired to write a children's book. And this children's book, I really think that that God inspired it, because I wasn't thinking the things that I ended up writing down to go into this book. This didn't come from me. I know it didn't come from me. But I ended up writing this book. It's called God's Precious Gift, A Special Needs Child. And it's this faith-based children's book about God's love for children with special needs and their parents. And basically, it's the story of a mom and a dad who have a little girl, and they find out that she has a diagnosis. In the book, it's very vague, but it's based on my story, on my personal experience. But in the book, it's very vague, that they find out that their child's going to be a very special child, and she's going to have needs that most other kids don't have. And this is really hard for the parents to hear, so they take it to prayer. And in the book, Jesus comes to them and answers their prayer. And they're praying in the book the same thing I was praying. It's just that God fix my baby. And his answer is, fix your baby, but she's exactly the way I chose to make her. And there's a bit of a back and forth but the doctors say that there's something wrong with her. And Jesus kind of laughs and he says, my children, don't you understand? The point of this life is not to be normal, but it's to get to heaven. And this child that I gave you is a gift. I gave her to you as a gift. I always knew that she was going to be yours. And I've been preparing you to be her parents your entire life. And she is already so deeply loved by me. She is going to have an easier path to heaven than anyone else, because of how special I allowed her heart. Because I allowed her body to be so special, I made sure that her soul was special too. And she will have an easier path to heaven than most do. And she is going to be your path to heaven. I have given you the graces to be her parents, and she will lead you to heaven by caring for her. And that's the message of the book. And I wasn't thinking any of this. And I think that God inspired me to write this book as an answer to my own prayer. And I just published it last month. And just in that short amount of time, I've come into contact, because of this book, into contact with so many other families with children with special needs, like yourself, like just people that I never would have come into contact with otherwise. And they have universally said, this book, I needed to hear this. I needed to read this book. This is God. This tugs on my heart so much. It affirms what I already knew, or it comforted my heart and I needed to hear it. And it's been this beautiful kind of grassroots, unintended kind of ministry almost. And I'm very, very just thankful that God has chosen me to be the one to write it and to bring it to people. Yeah.
So, I'm not a crier. I like never cry, and I'm just like tearing up over here over those words because it's a hard life.
It
It
is.
is
It really is.
so hard,
Mm-hmm.
and just those words are cut so very comforting.
They are, and God is good. And I'm working on a second book right now for same message, but for siblings of special needs.
Amazing.
And I'm kind of just sitting with it and kind of just waiting for God to give me the words on it because this book is really important. I want to get this second book right because this one is going to be for my son who has a sibling with special needs. And I'm to the part in it where this little boy who has a sister with special needs is struggling with why is this sister that God gave me, why is she a gift? Because now all of a sudden our family is so busy and everything revolves around what she needs. There's so much she can't do and there's so much I can't do because of her. So how is she a gift? And I need to get that message right for him. I need to have that answer for him when he's ready to ask it. And this book, it's like the first book just came in answer to my own prayer. And this second book, I need God to answer it because I need to have an answer for my son. Like that's
Oh
that's
yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at with that.
I have a recommendation that's coming to me to tell you,
Yes.
and that is to interview adults who grew up with siblings that are disabled. I've heard some just amazing stories, especially what comes to mind is this guy who has a brother with Down syndrome
Mm.
and how that affected his life, and it'll blow you away to hear their stories. They're
I
really
would
beautiful.
I would love to do that. I think that's a fantastic idea. Oh gosh, I think
Um,
I'm
I
I
know.
will
I was
definitely
gonna say we're all gonna cry. All right, I'm gonna give you just another one, I guess. How old is your daughter?
she's 19 months old now and my son is 3. So he's not old enough to articulate
Yeah.
anything about this yet and he's not really old enough to probably really even register the differences
Yeah.
between our family and other families yet. But he will one day.
Hmm.
And I want to have an answer ready for him because I mean I know the answers, I know the complicated
Yeah, but to have
or
it in a child's digestible kind of form.
yes, that's what I'm working on. And I'm not there yet.
So beautiful. So what I was gonna tell you, so my son Joshua was 7 years old. He was severely autistic and entirely nonverbal. Like utterly, he didn't even have a that meant something. And this was, I mean, we had a lifetime of constant therapy. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
literally, I'd for all through preschool and actually for for what 5 years of his life, he had been um in school all day, and then I would take him out of school an hour early so he could do 4 hours of therapy every afternoon. So it was like so much therapy, and he had not made any progress in his speech, like zero. He didn't have a single sound that meant something specific. And my family had spent. I mean, I had my other two were high functioning, so
Mhm.
they have their struggles, and it is not easy,
Yeah.
but they understand better than he does.
Mhm.
And so as a family, we had spent the year praying that he'd be able to speak, that he'd find his voice. And it got to the point where I gave up. And I like did
Mhm.
this like Facebook Live, and I was crying, and I was like, I can't do it anymore. I can't keep praying that my son's gonna talk. I can't do it anymore. At some point it just becomes too painful to keep
Mhm.
praying for this thing, and I just have to, accept him as he is, and I can't keep this hope up that he's gonna talk. And I had completely given up on it. And at 7 years old, he almost died from type 1 diabetes. And within a month he was talking and he could say all of his colors. And now we're 4 years later and he never shuts up. He never, ever, ever shuts up. And it's actually extremely draining because he says the same things over and over and over and over again. He perseverates on like, grandma's birthday's coming up soon in April. And it's like, okay, April's like 9 months away. But like he'll say it over and over and over and over and over again. And it's like, it's incredible because I sit there and I'm like, this is so draining. He never shuts up. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, miracles happen.
They do.
Like he went, I mean, it was like he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and he almost died. And we were in the hospital for 3 days. And it was this crazy experience where the doctor didn't listen to me. And then finally I was like, no, I'm done. And I took him to the ER and they knew immediately. And it was this awful experience in the hospital of holding my 7-year-old down who was severely underweight and who was so weak that he couldn't walk on his own. And yet it took 5 people to hold him down to get a little drop of blood
Kids
from
are
his
strong.
finger. I know, it was insane. And I spent the whole time in the hospital going, you don't understand, guys. He's gonna come back to himself and he's gonna tear this hospital apart. Like, you don't understand who this kid is. He will switch the language on all your computers and he'll turn off the like he's gonna like. So that's how I spent my whole hospital experience with him. And I was in such a state of shock. And it, you know, when you're in it, you don't see the miracle. It's when you look back on it. And he started saying all of his colors and he started talking like and don't get me wrong, he still struggles and it's not like real communication. He's not, I mean, he's got childhood
But it's
apathy of speech, so he's hard to understand, but oh my gosh, he has a voice and he uses it. He uses it a lot. And he tells jokes. And I mean, his jokes are like moth popsicle. And then he giggles hysterically because he thinks it's so funny, this joke he came up with. And he'll point at a picture of a horse and he'll be like, dog. And he wants you to be like, that's not a dog, it's a horse. And then he laughs hysterically. And it's like, his voice is such a miracle. So my point in telling you this is that you, and I know you know this, but you don't know what miracles lie ahead. There are absolutely 100% miracles that lie ahead that do not make any medical sense. That just,
I know that is true. I absolutely know that is true.
And they will blow you away. And
you got me tearing up over here.
Dude, yeah, it's because you already had me like in tears from your story before. But it's just so powerful when we can look at what we're going through now from that perspective that God has of like, just give it a little more time. Give it a little more time. Miracles are on their way. And it's hard now, but you're going to look back and feel so much joy because of this experience.
And it's going to be through you that other people are able to see the glory of God in your story, and they're able to be brought to faith because of the stories because of the experiences that God is, the miracles that God works through you. And it's incredible what his plan is and what his will is. And the only annoying thing is that he doesn't tell you what his plan or his will is until it happens.
Can I just know all the steps now? That would help me a lot with the like anxiety and all the things that go along with it and the worry and the fears. We have to learn how to trust his plan without knowing it.
And that is how you find your path to heaven, is by taking care of your child who is requiring you to walk by faith and not by sight. And that is how you trust God. And that is how that's how you make your way to heaven. It's kind of it's like God's allowing you to ride with training wheels by making sure that you know that you, like, requiring you to walk by faith, where other people who may not be in the same kind of situation may find themselves getting to choose oh, am I going to believe that this was God working, or am I going to believe this was a coincidence? And I don't find I have the option to believe that this or that was a coincidence. Like, I know this should not have happened, but there's no other explanation but God to have had his hand in this. And it's just amazing that way.
And that's what Seeking Sunshine's all about, is looking at our past experiences that were so hard and finding God in them. Where was God's hand in my life? That's what the sunshine is, is his hand in our lives. And so that's what it's all about, is the more that we can see those miracles in our past experiences, the more that we're able to see them now in our current experiences, and to trust.
It's like I look back, I was actually wrestling with this just yesterday. And human beings are so fickle. Like, I feel like I have had this same point of contention that I keep coming back to in my prayer life over and over and over again. And then I feel like I've made a breakthrough, and then I come right back to it. And I have to keep on dealing with this of just, this isn't, I'm okay, God, with you. Send me whatever you want. Send whatever cross you want me to carry. I will carry it, but leave my baby alone. I just don't want my baby to suffer. And that's what I keep on wrestling with, of like, she's innocent, she's precious, she's so little, and just ask whatever you want of me, but let her be okay. And I was dealing with this yesterday, and I was in church, and I was just I was like, okay, are you asking me just to have the faith to give my child to you, and are you asking me to have the faith to allow my child to suffer? Like, when have you done that before? And so I start thinking about all these Bible stories, and like, you asked that of Abraham, who is the father of our faith. Like, you asked him to be willing to give up his son and to sacrifice his son. And I kept on wrestling with that. Okay, yes, you asked him to have the faith of that, but you didn't actually ask him to kill his son in the end. And so then I kept on thinking of all these other people. Who else had to give up their son? Who else had to say yes for their child to have to suffer? And then I got to Mary.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have I wrote a song about this. So I'm a singer-songwriter. And I wrote a song about this. It's called If I Could Talk to Mary. And it's like, and it's a song about Mary, but it's really about me, right? It's really and it looks at, like, what's it like? If I could talk to Mary, I'd ask her, what's it like to know that know what your son's life is going to be like, and know how much he's going to suffer, and
oh my gosh, no,
all the pain that he's going to have to experience in this life. And is that
okay?
Yeah, okay, I'll have to say
no. This is crazy right now, because I'm not even kidding. Yesterday in church, do you know the song Mary Did You Know?
Yes, I love that song.
Oh, okay, that's like my favorite song in the world. And I'm not a songwriter, but I started writing a parody of that song, Mary Did You Know? And it's all about, did you know that he would suffer? Did you know that he would, like, pretty much the same concept of that song. I've been working on it since yesterday. I've just kept on writing all this stuff down. And like, Mary, did you know that your son was gonna would have to run from Herod? Mary, did you know that right from the beginning they'd want to shed his blood? Like, and just add, like, kind of a song. So, like, it's amazing. Just like, and that's what I've been working on since yesterday, of just a song of Mary. You said yes, not just for you to be the handmaid of the Lord, but you said yes to have a child that you're willing to have a child who would suffer and die the most horrific death in history. And to have
everything else that went along with it. Sorry, have you watched Chosen?
Yes, I have.
I love The Chosen. And they had this episode where have you seen, are you up to date? so I don't want to spoil it. Okay, so they had the episode just a few ago where he went back to his hometown and he was shunned from his hometown. And how like that was one of the most painful, I mean, I love the children, but that was one of the most painful, heart-wrenching episodes, like from the perspective of a mother. And he's like, I'm sorry, but I'm never gonna be able to come home again. They will kill me.
Yeah.
It's just like it wasn't just the final chapter, it was everything. I mean, he was homeless and did he even eat regularly? I mean, she worries about that constantly. And as a mom, you're like, hello, are you eating? This is important stuff here.
I feel like they got the character of Mary so right in that show, because you just watch her and she's just clearly such a mom.
Yeah.
She emits mama. Like she just,
oh yeah, and she mothers everyone. She mothers all the disciples, and you're like, oh, I just love her
too. And she I just love her entire character. They got her so right. And I keep on thinking of that scene where he's telling her I can't come home, and she's just like, oh, I'm not ready. Like, but he says it's time, and she's just kind of like she did for the, and this isn't in the show, but when she's speaking to the angel, let it be done unto me according to your word. If you say it's time, okay. And spoiler alerts for anyone who hasn't seen Chosen, there's a box involved. And it's just like, the box is in your room. He's asking for a box. The box is in your room. And like, it's just like submission to the will of God. Humble, beautiful submission to the will of God. And that's what I was praying about yesterday. Just, God, give me the faith of Mary to be willing to give not just me, but my child and my child's hurts to you. And to have to have the strength to suffer through it.
Yeah.
And that's I've been wrestling with that. And it's so funny that I did not intend to share any of this with you.
I know, it's just such an amazing conversation. The other thing I was gonna say in regards to this is like we have to look at our own parents. And I'm like, my parents have watched me go through this, special needs parenting. I mean, my siblings were all, typically developing. This was very unexpected. And I've got 3 kids on the spectrum, and my husband's been disabled for the last decade, and it's really been a ride. It's really been quite a journey. And so,
oh gosh,
it's like, how do I look at, can I look at my children through my mom's perspective? And it's like, she's had to sit and watch me go through this and let me go through this, because there's no other way around it.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's so hard, but we have to let our kids experience the trials that God's going to send their way, and trust that they're going to grow from it. Trust that they're gonna that this is what they need to get into heaven. That these are the trials, this is the refiner's fire, this is the, are you familiar with that term?
Yes, I am. Okay. I am very familiar with it.
This is what they need for their lives to grow. We're all humans. We're all sent here to experience trials so that we can grow. They're not for nothing.
I had a real come to Jesus moment, I don't know, a week or two ago, where I was reading through the book of James. I don't know if you're super familiar with that book, but it
we're studying James, it right now, but I'm
yeah, no. it's so there's that book is just pregnant with gems for special needs parents. Like, there's so much relevant stuff in that particular book. And I'm looking for it. I wrote all this down, and I didn't prepare this for this podcast, but it happens to be right here in front of me from the other day. It's like, it's just so another beautiful. One of those things where God,
right, I'm like, it's just God. So beautiful how it all just comes together. And
no, this is literally this was not intended at all. But where is it? It's on this paper here. Hold on. So it's somewhere. Okay, here we go. Yeah, James 4, verse 3. It says, "When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures." And that was really interesting to me, because earlier in the book it's saying, consider it pure joy, brothers and sisters, when you face trials. And it and it's all about there's a lot of stuff in there about healing the sick. And I found myself so often praying, God, heal my child. And that's what I've been asking for. God, heal my child. Heal her. And then it says, when you ask, you do not receive because you ask with the wrong motives. And so I had to sit there and ask, okay, well, what's my motive for asking for my child to be healed? And I actually was kind of just shamefaced of, okay, I want her to be healed so that she can have a normal life. I want her to be healed so that she can have normal friends and I want her to be healed so that she can be normal. Like, that's why I want her to be healed. But, and again, going back to my book where I actually said it in there, the point of this life is not to be normal. The point of this life is to get to heaven. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, just, oh, so that's, if my daughter never gets healed, even though I've spent my whole life praying that she be healed, it's because I'm praying with the wrong motives. And that's why he doesn't say yes to that prayer.
And what's that scripture? And if not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just there's some.
That's in Daniel. I think that's in Daniel. Maybe
Wait, I couldn't quite hear it. Could you say that again?
The scripture is something like, but if not.
Yeah, I know. What was that? Shadrach,
yeah,
Meshach, and Abednego. They're getting thrown into the fire.
Yeah, and it's like, but if not, and that can be just
We
applied
will still praise him
everywhere. And it's like, oh yeah, I need to learn these lessons from the Bible. Is the Bible amazing? We can just keep learning.
And the hardest thing is, I don't have to just learn them once. I feel like I have to learn them over and over and over again, because I keep forgetting, fickle person that I am. Oh gosh.
It's how that's our trial on earth, right? When we figure out what the right way is, and then our natural self kind of pulls away from that, and then we're like, wait, redirect. And we pull away. It's like, wait, redirect. Wait, and redirect.
Praise God that he is constant, because I am not. He is constantly there to call me back, because I am constantly pulling away. And if that ain't the truth, I don't know what is.
Bind my wandering heart to thee. Line of a favorite.
Oh gosh, yeah, no, it's.
I don't know if you know that one.
Yeah, I've heard it before, but I couldn't tell you what book of the Bible it's in.
No, it's a line from a hymn, although it might be from scripture. I don't know.
Oh, I assumed it was from scripture, but I have heard it before. Maybe I've heard the hymn. I'm not sure, but I've heard it before.
At the moment, like the name of the hymn, I can't. I'm sitting here like, what? Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing is the name of the hymn.
Oh,
a really, really, really deep one that'll tear your heart out. So, anyways, we should wrap up, because I could sit and talk to you forever, and it's just been.
This has been wonderful.
You know, it's a really amazing episode when we're both just like crying, because goodness, I mean, I have 13. This is my third of the day today, and
oh wow,
13 this week. Yeah, when I posted, I got a lot. All at once.
Gosh.
And I can tell you that I think this is the second time ever that I've sat here and cried, and the other time was from a mom who has special needs kids. And it just it tears my heart open, because
it is your heart.
Because it's
so deep in your heart.
And we need to connect more often with moms who know.
We really do. I am a big believer in community, that we need community with each other. And that is one of the most healing things that we have access to is community.
Absolutely. So thank you. So tell us, let's see, how can we find your book? Probably.
Okay, God's Precious Gift, A Special Needs Child. You can find it on Amazon, but if you want to support me, the author, you can buy it at my website, which
Yay.
is which is www.godspreciousgift.com, and I sell it on there. So those are the places you can find the book, godspreciousgift.com, or you can find it on Amazon. Just Amazon, search it, God's Precious Gift, A Special Needs Child.
Awesome. I hope everyone will go out and buy that like right now. This has been incredible. Is there any final like words of wisdom that you'd like to share?
Oh gosh, just trust. Just trust in God. You're guaranteed to suffer in this life, but what is also promised is God's faithfulness to you, and you can choose to cling to him or not, but he's there regardless.
And it's a lot easier.
It's way easier I would rather go through these trials. You're guaranteed trials in this life, but I would rather go through those trials with God carrying me than with me sulking standing next to him, because I won't let him in.
Yeah.
So it's just trust in God and cling to him through everything that is going on. Absolutely. In the good times and bad.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Seeking Sunshine podcast and just like bearing your heart. It's been so beautiful to see and just really amazing.
Thank you so much. It's been a true pleasure being here. This is probably one of the best podcast experiences I've had. I've had 5 or 6 so far, and this is easily one of the best ones I've had.
Well, thank you. It's it's like why I created this podcast is because I wanted to tell my story, and as I did so, I was like, oh my gosh, how many other people like just need to share their story and they don't have anywhere to do it. And how good is it for us to listen to other people's stories and to open our hearts to them? Because there's this quote who I have no idea who said it, but something like you can't help but love somebody when you hear their story.
I've never heard that before, but I would say it's true. I love that.
Yeah. I
love that.
And that's what we need more of in this world, is more compassion and more love for each other. So thank you again.
Could not agree more. Thank you for having me.
I hope you have an incredible day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
My heart is just so bursting with joy and gratitude after that conversation. I'm so thankful for Colleen and for my opportunity to get to talk to her. It was just meant so much to me. I hope that it meant a lot to you as well. So here are my very favorite takeaways. Number 1, God knows what you can handle, so he will give you something that is going to affect you enough to be able to turn to him. Number 2, if I didn't have faith to fall back on in this particular time, I really don't know where I would have gone to. Number 3, God was there with me, and because of that, I had the insight to see all the little ways that he was consoling me every step of the way. All the little ways that he was stepping in to let me know that you're not by yourself. I'm here. I'm with you. I'm suffering through this with you because she's my child too. Number 4, there are miracles that lie ahead that do not make any medical sense, and they will blow you away. Number 5, it's going to be through you that other people are going to be able to see the glory of God in your story. Number 6, just trust in God. You're guaranteed to suffer in this life, but what is also promised is God's faithfulness to you. You can choose to cling to him or not, but he's there regardless. And number 7, you can't help but love somebody when you hear their story. Make sure that you order Colleen's incredible book, God's Precious Gift, A Special Needs Child, on Amazon, or even better, from her website, godspreciousgift.com. And I will tell you that I ordered her book. It is beautiful. It came so fast, and you just have to get it. It is the perfect keepsake to have and to share with your kids, even if you don't have special needs kids. It is something to keep on hand so that when they experience kids with disabilities in their schools or throughout the community, they can have that as a resource, and they can help them understand how to interact with kids who are different from themselves. It is a really beautiful book. It is absolutely worth getting, and definitely support this incredible author and this beautiful message. It needs to get out there. And it makes a really, really great gift for people. And then the other thing I was going to say is make sure you check out my website. And if you want a custom song, reach out to me. You can email me at customsongsbykaraleigh@gmail.com. And I would love to hear from you if that is something that you are interested in. And then today, I'm actually going to do a little throwback back to a song from my Christmas album, because it was referenced in our episode. We talked about it. So it's sort of like a little Christmas in July for ya. And so I'm going to play for you my song, If You Could Talk to Mary, because it just went so perfectly with this episode. And I feel like it's a really beautiful reminder of just how beautiful it is to be a mother and to appreciate the gift that our children are. And that we have to be able to sacrifice, give that gift to the Lord, right? We have to be able to let them suffer because it will let them grow in the ways that the Lord wants them to grow. Because our parents had to do that for us, and our Heavenly Fathers had to do that with His children, which is us. He has to watch us suffer, and I'm sure that's not easy for Him. And so that's what that song means to me, whether it's Christmas time or not. It's still a really beautiful message. And so that's the song that I'm going to leave you with today. And I hope that you have an absolutely incredible day. And I hope that you enjoy this beautiful, beautiful 4th of July. Have an amazing day.
So young, so innocent, the virgin that gave birth. Did she know that heaven sent the angel just for her? He told her things that would change her life. She got a peek of happiness and strife, a glimpse of all the joy, a moment with the ache. How does it feel to know the end? And does it bring relief for pain? To know the joys and also the suffering, to look into your sweet one's eyes and picture all those future tears. Would you hold him close and wish for this moment to last? This is what I'd want to know if I could talk to Mary. Lying in a manger bed, the animals surround. The noise, the smell, the flies, the mess. Is this really what was planned? How can this be the birth of a king, born amid such suffering? The Savior of all brings life to this poor stone. How does it feel to know the end? the joys and also the suffering. To look into your sweet one's eyes and picture all those future tears. Would you hold them close and wish for this moment to last? This is what I'd want to know if I could talk to Mary. Oh, Mary, could you see the light without the dark? Or did the pain make your joy more full? How does it feel to know the end? And does it bring relief for pain? To know the joys and also the suffering. To look into your sweet one's eyes and picture all those future tears. Would you hold him close and wish for this moment to last? This is what I'd want to know if I could talk to